Hi there, it's Brian at Activate. Today's video is about stress. So we just want to make it clear that stress can come in various different forms. Stress isn't just something that you think of as a mental state or something that's very emotionally linked. Stress also comes from things like a long cycle. So for example, anyone who completed the Ring of Kerry cycle, there's stress imposed upon the system with that. Working out in the gym is stress, and paying the bills, getting the kids out for work in the morning, running late, that's all stress. Everything can be encapsulated as the one thing when it comes to how your body responds to it. Your body is non-specific in terms of how it deals with stress. It sees all the stress as the same thing, essentially. Now we can talk about various energy systems until the cows come home, and we can talk about how your body adapts to those stresses in future videos, which we will be doing, and how rest and recovery forms an absolutely vital part of any training program. But for now, we just want to make it clear about how stress works, how it impacts your performance, how it impacts your life, and how your body deals with stress. So, like I said, your body doesn't really distinguish between different types of stress. It doesn't know whether, I'm stressed because I only slept 4 hours last night, or I'm stressed because I just had, a really intense 20-minute workout. It just lumps that all together, and its response is through the autonomic nervous system. So most people will be aware of the central nervous system that allows you to govern your movement. However, the autonomic nervous system is made up of what I like to just term as two pumps, essentially, working in unison. So you've got your sympathetic nervous system, and then you've got the parasympathetic nervous system. I've drawn two arrows, but in reality, these things, they work in a constant state of flow. The reason for the arrows is just to make it clearer that the parasympathetic nervous system starts to lower the markers that it is in charge of. Okay, so things like blood sugar levels, oxygen uptake, blood pH levels, heart rate, hormones. It tends to, it's that relax response. And then the sympathetic nervous system is commonly known as the fight or flight nervous system. So it's that one that gets that heart rate up. It gets that oxygen uptake up. It starts to suppress the digestion system. So in essence, it's catabolic in nature. What we mean by that, it actually breaks you down ever so slightly. So let's say, for example, in a workout, you're working really hard, and we'll talk about this in future videos, but the workout actually makes you worse. It doesn't improve you. It's the rest and recovery that you get after that workout that brings you up to a higher level than you previously were, or a fitter level, stronger level than you previously were. So both those pumps are working in unison. Your body is constantly working through various systems to keep you in a state of what's called homeostasis. It wants to keep you on an even keel all the time, because historically that is where we're safest. We're able to respond to stressors in the environment. Let's say a dinosaur jumps out at us, thousands and thousands of years ago. We had to be able to respond to that, so we always had to be kept on an even keel. If our stress rate was constantly up, we wouldn't be able to adapt and respond to that threat as easily as if everything was on an even keel. Nowadays, obviously, we're more or less top of the food chain. We don't have to worry about anything. Everything's at the touch of a button, and it's very easy to overload that parasympathetic nervous system and to just rest on your laurels too long. So if we use training as an example of a stressor, there's a large sympathetic shift when you train. So as I mentioned already, you actually get worse immediately during training and immediately after training. It's the recovery that happens after that, and that rebooting and the rebalancing of that parasympathetic nervous system that brings you back to homeostasis. So once, we'll say, the stressor has passed, that parasympathetic system kicks in and starts to level things up, and it might actually just push back over again to get you back to a normal rested state. So these pumps are working in unison. After you've had this shift in the sympathetic nervous system, you're down, you're starting to rest again. The parasympathetic system will then boost to try and get the heart rate down, to get everything back to normal as quickly as possible. So generally speaking, the harder the stress, the longer it takes to recover and to achieve that rebalancing act. So you know, if your sympathetic function is quite high, and then your parasympathetic function is really low. Let's say we're using the analogy of pumps again. That sympathetic system is just pumping, you know, 90 the whole time, and then the parasympathetic system is really low. Then it's going to take you a little bit longer. You know, it's probably a sign that you're under acute stress, and it's going to take you a hell of a lot longer to get back to homeostasis and back to a normal resting level again. It's very important thinking about these things when you think about your training and how you approach training. So for example, again, let's use the Ring of Kerry cycle as an example. You complete 180k of a cycle. Your system is responding to the stress that you put into it. It probably wouldn't be the greatest idea to go back straight into training the day after. You know, generally speaking, you'll need a good lot of recovery. You know, different things to try and get that parasympathetic dominance. So you know, possibly just reduced volume the next day, reduced volume for a couple of days after. Certain things, some people find relief in deep tissue massage. Some people find some cold water immersion like cryotherapy baths useful. You know, so you know, if you wanted to get that sympathetic dominance, on the other hand, things like reducing the intensity and then some possibly yoga and stretching and some active aerobic recovery would be a really good way to balance the books. So it's important also when you're looking at how you put together your training program. I'm seeing an awful lot of heart rate usage coming into particularly the gym space. And sometimes you can see it, you know, individuals will use like a heart rate monitor and a chest strap when doing their own workouts or possibly going for a run or a cycle. So I'm seeing a lot of people aiming for 85% plus in every workout, and you know, going for max out heart rate to try and, you know, burn more calories. You know, and what happens, you know, you're just ending up in a pool of sweat every day. You're really you think that this is the best thing for you and it's going to get the best results. However, you know, it shows a serious you know, lack of I suppose knowledge in terms of how the program is put together if we're always aiming for that. And eventually what's going to happen is you're going to get to a state of overreaching. Your stress levels are going to be too high, and eventually something's going to break somewhere. So one of the systems is going to pay the price for having that sympathetic response up all the time. Your program should have a nice balance of, you know, parasympathetic activities and sympathetic activities, nicely balanced. So, you know, possibly it might be a hard workout one day and then you're just doing some light aerobic work the next day, some recovery work, and possibly some sort of, you know, maybe single joint exercises that are a little bit lower in stress on the following day. You should be looking at different energy system development. We shouldn't always be pumping the same energy system every day. You know, we have to look at a balance, and in our next video we're going to talk about how you get that the balance between the different energy systems being stressed at different times, and you know, how you can get the best out of your training. Constantly going balls to the walls is not the best way to get fit and to maintain health. It's actually the fastest way to end up with injuries and chronic fatigue. So guys, if you've got any questions or comments on this video, feel free to give us a like and to comment below. Thank you.